This episode contains discussions of depression and toxic relationships. Listen to your own discretion. It is Saturday, the 8th of March, 2025. My name is Pigeon Rose, and this is my song of the day. We're coming to the end of our spring week here, and today we're going to be talking about a song by the Antlers. But for once in my goddamn podcast, it is not a song from the album Hospice. It is in fact from their very first album, Uprooted. We're talking about the title track, Uprooted. Now, I think you could view this as winter, charitably, but I think of it more as spring, honestly. Hospice is a very winter album to me, and I've always liked this song. This first album is essentially, they're one of those bands where like the first album was essentially a solo project with a different name, and then he like built up a band as they released stuff. This one was very influenced by Phil Elverum of the Microphones and Mount Erie, who we will be talking about next week, incidentally. And, you know, if you know The Glow Part 2, that makes sense if you listen to this album. And I really like some of the songs from it. I always thought First Field would be a great intro song for something. But anyway, today we're talking about the title track, like I said. So let's go listen to it now and then come back in a few minutes and talk about it. And that was Uprooted by the Antlers. So, I think you can see how that's like kind of prototypical for the stuff you've heard in Hospice. The style hasn't changed too much, you know. Ethereal, falsetto, sometimes hard to hear, and gentle instrumentation with little bits of electronic stuff in there as well, you know. I really like how this song sounds, as fucking quiet as it is. And in terms of what the song is, it's kind of, it's about this kind of idea of bouncing back from something, kind of saying that you'll be okay even after you've been uprooted. You'll grow back, right? And that's why to me it feels like a spring song, this idea of renewal, of growing back, you know. Makes sense. Let's go through the lyrics, shall we? Trees are still trees if their roots are not deep, even if you remove them. Branches and limbs are intangible things, that's a fact, but it's not been proven. I am alive, but I am not blinking. I can't catch my breath, my ears are still ringing. Pulled up my roots, but I am replanted. I'm growing back, you can take that for granted. So, trees are still trees if their roots are not deep, even if you remove them. I think, you know, if we're taking trees as the person metaphor, right, that he's a tree, he's saying like, even if, you know, you cut me down in some way, even if you remove my roots, if you isolate me, if you break me off, I'm still a tree, I'm still a person, I'm still able to grow. Branches and limbs are intangible things, that's a fact, but it's not been proven. This is kind of a hard one to parse, but I think he's kind of saying that like trees grow weirdly and so do people. Does that make sense? And then I do love the big build to the ooh, I am alive. I'm not blinking. I just love Peter Silverman's delivery. It's always very delicate, you know. So, I am alive, but I am not blinking. I can't catch my breath. My ears are still ringing. So, he's saying, you know, I may have survived, but that doesn't mean I'm not hurt. That doesn't mean I'm not affected by this, you know. I'm not blinking. My ears are still ringing. Almost sounds like a newborn baby, you know. I can't catch my breath, like all these things. Incidentally, my ears are still ringing is an interesting thing to put in here because Peter Silverman has since developed tinnitus, so his ears are indeed still ringing. Pulled up my roots, but I am replanted. I'm growing back. You can take that for granted. So, you know, pulled up my roots, but I am replanted. Like I said, no matter how you try to destroy me in some way, no matter how you try to unmake me, there's always some part of me that is replanted, that is able to grow. I'm able to come back. I'm able to come back because I'm able to come back. That's just how it is. I am replanted. I'm growing back. You can take that for granted. This is a guarantee. This is not, you will never be able to defeat me in this way. This isn't even my final form. I'm talking about him like he's a fucking video game boss. Anyway, so the second verse, I'll abandon my flaws if you call off the saws, don't cut me down. I was reeling with drought, so I moved up and out, but I stayed in the ground. So, shades of Hospice here. I wonder if this is a song by the same person who inspired Hospice, really. But he says, I'll abandon my flaws if you call off the saws. That's like, I'll change for you if you promise not to cut me down, which is a very sad thing to consider here. I was reeling with drought, so I moved up and out, but I stayed in the ground. Now that sounds like, you know, I was reeling with drought, I didn't have enough love and affection, but I stayed in the ground. I stayed planted here, I stayed alive, I stayed present, you know. And then the rest of the song is the chorus again, but much louder. And then the outro is just the first two lines. Trees are still trees if their roots are not deep, even if you remove them. So even though it's a long song, there's not very many lyrics and there's not a lot to interpret here. But I think it's a really beautiful, pretty song. And I think message wise, it delivers this kind of interesting message of being able to kind of bounce back from these things that happen to you, and being able to kind of take confidence in the fact that you will come back, you will be able to figure it out and regrow, so to speak, even if you've been uprooted. It's kind of a message of hope, of like, no matter how deep of a hole you're in, you can always dig your way out. I don't know why I'm mixing my metaphors here, but you get what I mean. I mean, it's going to be a short episode for a long song, but I think that's pretty much it. I like the acoustic guitar. I like the other sounds that go on. I like Peter Silverman's voice. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's just a good song. Good Lord, this is going to be a short episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell other people about this show. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Break it down.
I'm able to come back. I always come back.